Welcome to the Naming the Real podcast, a resource for people who long to live free and grounded lives in the midst of polarized times. We explore the intersections of culture, philosophy, science, and spiritual practice in order to cultivate lives of wisdom, discernment, clarity, and human flourishing in the midst of a chaotic world. Welcome to the Naming the Real podcast. My name is Brandon Cook. In the 1980s, President Reagan and Tip O'Neill, who was the Speaker of the House, they were intense political enemies. And there was real disagreement and distance and rancor. What a great word. Um, they fought hard in public. But despite all their dissonance with each other, they respected each other. They would get together and civilly drink whiskey after disagreeing over policy. Now, can you imagine Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump sitting down to enjoy a good glass of Chardonnay together, a good glass of Talisker? Just try to imagine it. I'm guessing you can't, right? Because the days of respect and mutuality in our politics seem to be far gone. So, what has happened? Why is this? One of the reasons is that moral fallacies have been multiplying. In the first episode in this series, I spoke about the yeah, but moral fallacy, the habit of blaming the other side while excusing any deficiencies on your own side. In episode 2, the last episode, I talked about the might makes right fallacy, by which those with power exercise that power as a sort of new moral center, that power is a moral end in and of itself. And you can almost see the cascade here. First, we excuse our side, blame the other side, and then power becomes its own morality. And then eventually, in this milieu, decency collapses. Indeed, in this episode, I want to talk about the decline of basic human decency, which is fostered by these two moral fallacies. And the moral fallacy here would be the fallacy of believing that norms of respect and decent engagement don't matter. Now, this is not a partisan podcast. This is not Republican versus Democrat. We happen at the moment to have a Republican president, Republican in name anyway, whose lack of decency is my focus today, because I think President Trump's lack of basic human decency is indicative of something about us and our health as a republic. Who the president is reveals something about us as citizens and where we are potentially headed. So I'm going to talk about President Trump, not as an exclusive example of indecency, but because his behavior is uniquely illustrative of where we're going and what we have been invited to accept as normal from this administration, what we have been invited to desensitize ourselves to in order to accept a new normal, reveals how aberrant things have become. It is an indecent time. I'm not even going to touch on the Epstein files. I'm going to leave that aside. I simply want to talk about basic human decency today. Leave alone gross immorality. I want to talk about basic human decency and why it matters. Let's go back a few weeks, months now, and talk about President Trump's response to Rob Reiner's death. After the violent murder of Rob Reiner and his wife, safe to say Rob Reiner was a beloved director, beloved by many anyway. Who doesn't love The Princess Bride? It's about as good as anything except a MLT, a mutton, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. Anyway, so after his death, Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle were committed to many progressive causes. I'm sure they were not fans of the president. After they were murdered, our president wrote this on social media. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. That's it. Let's just sit in that for a moment. Someone is murdered, and our president writes this. This is derision at death. And what's incredible isn't only the statement, it's the banality of it, how commonplace this sort of behavior has become from the leader of the highest office in the land. It lacks dignity, it lacks decorum, it lacks maturity. It is dehumanizing, and it is callous. Decency would not have required agreement. It would have required a single sentence. We disagree deeply, but I'm sorry to hear of the loss. And that this is not the sort of response that we got is incredibly troubling. Ultimately, the scandal here isn't about President Trump's behavior. It's that so few expect any better. It's that this sort of thing has become a part of our discourse. That's the scandal. And when a president writes this and he's not immediately and widely censored, you've got a major problem because it's an indicator that norms of moral decency are failing. And this type of indecency, it's not isolated. It's not just interpersonal. It extends outward. In fact, we have geopolitical indecency. President Trump wrote a letter to Norway that that the U.S. is threatening to take Greenland because Trump was not given the Nobel Prize. This is certainly not presidential behavior. It's not moral behavior. It is not decent behavior. And decency matters. Now, I've had people say to me, well, that's just Trump being Trump. That's what's so refreshing about him. Or he didn't mean it. Or, he just got rough edges. No, everything a president says and how he comports himself is important. It is serious. And it is revelatory of our moral frame and our future. We are stayed from chaos by decency. The line between stability and chaos is always thin. I mean, we've had centuries now of stability as a republic, but look at history. The line between stability and chaos is always thin. And we keep chaos at bay through norms of decency, through restraint, through dignity, through refusing to have a culture that dehumanizes the other side. Our ability to be decent, to transcend the lust for power, is what holds chaos back. In America, we have a system designed to help us stay chaos through checks and balances because humans naturally lust after unrestrained power. For all of our failures as a country, it's what has made America, the American experiment, so incredible and so world-changing. Part of our brilliance is that we have systems in place to push us towards decency. We have limited government and checks and balances. But checks and balances assume a culture of decency. They don't replace it. Checks and balances don't ultimately restrain power. People do. Citizens do. And people only restrain power when they're committed to decency. The American decline that we are in, and yes, we are in a decline, not inevitable decline, but a decline nonetheless. It's not showing up as inevitable catastrophe couldn't be helped. It's not forced by, pressure from outside the gates, German hordes. It is internal corrosion. It is the steady erosion of dignity. It is the normalization of indecency playing itself out in grander and grander circles. When a president normalizes political revenge through the arms of the state, when in fact he weaponizes the state, when, for example, Fed Chair Jerome Powell is threatened with a criminal investigation for doing his job, or Senator Mark Kelly is threatened to be stripped of his well-earned pension despite the fact that he did not incite sedition, power replaces restraint and decency collapses. And a frenzy really sets into society. Large segments of the population it's a scapegoating mechanism, right? There's something exciting about having the outrage to blame others and to claim superiority. Large segments of our populations have latched onto this and are caught up in it because we've been reduced to a false binary of A and B. You have to choose only one side. You can't critique both, and you have to go all in on your side. And that's why this conversation is far more about us than it is about President Trump. And that's why we need a social movement, a third way movement, third way rejecting the false binaries of A and B, of people who opt out of the yeah, but blame game. They opt out of might makes right and out of this sort of toxic tribalism we've been invited to and critique their own sides. We need a social movement now. And what does that look like? It looks like, for starters, pushing back when someone on your own side excuses indecency, let alone cruelty. If you're a Democrat, it means fairly critiquing the fact that Democrats ran Joe Biden when he was clearly not compos mentis when he was not capable of being president. It might mean critiquing the Biden administration's censorship during the COVID era. If you're a Republican, it means to critique President Trump for his brazen indecency and not to excuse it as merely Trump being Trump. It looks like saying, no, that's not decent, even when it costs you your political identity. It means for all of us opting out of the false binary that only one side is ever good and the other side is always bad. It means getting past that immature way of thinking that has become normative for us. Right now, we need less partisans and we need more prophets. And what do prophets do? They critique. When immorality becomes mainstream, as it does through the yeah, but fallacy and through the might makes right fallacy and through this, the fallacy of thinking that decency doesn't matter, our first work is to simply name these realities, to name it. And then we need people who escape the machinery of all these moral fallacies by pushing back against indecency whenever we see it and saying that this is not worthy of us, of who we are as a people, of what it means to be an American. We have to move the line back. So no more, oh no, that's just Trump being Trump, criticizing Reiner. No, that is a brazen bit of inhumanity, of callousness, that if it becomes normalized, imperils all of us. If you're a Republican, great, but push back on Trump's brazen, indecent, dehumanizing behavior. And if you're not on Trump's team, don't let your rightful outrage pull you into hatred or bitterness, because then we're all stuck. There is real work for all of us to do on all sides. Let's move the line back. Let's take normal back. Let's name indecency, champion decency, humanity. Let's opt out of the false binaries that radicalized media and radicalized politicians would try to trap us in. Let's reject the lie that might makes right. Let's find a new way of being humans together, of being citizens together. This is our work, to create a third way movement that finds a new path forward. Now, doesn't that sound like a lot of fun? I'll be back soon. Thank you for listening to the Naming the Real podcast. As always, would you please share this podcast with a friend? Help us grow. Also, can we ask you to rate and review the podcast? We'd be very grateful. If you'd like more information on coaching or our training and intensive experiences through Naming the Real, or if you'd like to submit a question, or if you'd like to become a financial donor, which helps make possible the creation of resources like these, please visit namingthereal.com. That's naming the REAL.com. I will be back soon with more episodes. Until then, may we live lives of courage and hope that help change the world. We'll talk soon.